Weird random historical facts. Animals during World War I. This brave Airedale Terrier, called Jim, was trained to spot Zeppelins approaching the Kent coast. Both on the battlefield and back at home, some incredible creatures helped to transport soldiers and goods and saving lives. Almost 1 million horses were involved in the war. Soldiers on horseback were known as the cavalry, and horses also pulled some of the gigantic guns, ambulances, and supply wagons. Gas from horse droppings could even be used to power lamps. Women once marched for the right to smoke. While we're familiar with women's fight for the right to vote, the less known is women's fight for the right to smoke. This happened in 1929. However, it's worth noting that the March for the Right to Smoke was at least in part a PR stunt cooked up by Edward Bernays, who was engaged at that time by the American Tobacco Company. Germany's famous Oktoberfest is actually in September. When Prince Ludwig married in October 1810, he threw a party, invited all Bavarians to join in the celebration. The party became an annual event known simply as Oktoberfest. However, with warmer temperatures in September making for a better party atmosphere, the event was pushed back into September, ending on the first Sunday of October to keep the name in place. Septemberfest just doesn't have the same ring to it. Iceland doesn't have mosquitoes. Hated to receive a mosquito bite? You'll love Iceland. With a lack of shallow ponds and temperatures unsuitable for mosquito breeding, Iceland is in the free and clear. So you can sleep with your windows open whenever you want. Although we don't recommend doing so in the dead of winter, when temps can drop into the negative digits. The first fighter action figures. Roman gladiators often became celebrities and even endorsed products. Children would even play with gladiator action figures made out of clay. Also, their sweat was considered an aphrodisiac, and women would mix it into their skincare products. An eye-changing disaster. Vladimir Pravec was one of the first firefighters to reach the Chernobyl nuclear power plant on April 26, 1986. The radiation was so strong that it changed his eye color from brown to blue. Like the majority of the first responders to the radioactive disaster, Vladimir died 15 days later from severe radiation poisoning. Sailing into the future. 14 years before the infamous Titanic sank, author Morgan Robertson wrote the novella Futility. It was about the large unsinkable ship called Titan hitting an iceberg in the northern Atlantic. What's even weirder is the Titanic and the fictional Titan did not have enough lifeboats for the thousands of passengers on board. Coincidence? The living mummy. Between the 11th and 19th centuries, a number of Buddhist monks successfully mummified themselves. They adopted a practice called sokush butsu, in which they gradually weaned themselves off food and water and essentially starved themselves to death over the course of 1,000 days. It was believed that by successfully mummifying themselves, the monks would achieve true enlightenment. Sailing into the future. 14 years before the infamous Titanic sank, author Morgan Robertson wrote the novella Futility. It was about the large unsinkable ship called Titan hitting an iceberg in the northern Atlantic. What's even weirder is the Titanic and the fictional Titan did not have enough lifeboats for the thousands of passengers on board. Coincidence? Underground pie market. In 1644, English statesman Oliver Cromwell banned the eating of pie. He declared it a pagan form of pleasure. For 16 years, pie eating and making went underground until the Restoration leaders lifted the ban on pie in 1660. Imagine this law in the 21st century. The history of freemen. Back in colonial America, slaves would win their freedom through lawsuits. Although there was a low chance of succeeding, winning in court meant that the slave was now a citizen. Since slaves often didn't have last names and needed a last name to be a citizen, they were often just given the last name of freeman. Island hopping. South Korea has more than 4,000 islands. To spend a day on each one, you'll need 9 years. Life on some of the islands is very different from the mainland. Traditional fishing culture and seaweed farming are still the main sources of income. Apparently, on some islands, they have never seen foreigners in decades. Norway knighted a penguin. As mascot and colonel-in-chief of the Norwegian King's Guard, Brigadier Sir Niels Olaf is Norway's very own knighted penguin. Residing at the Edinburgh Zoo, Sir Olaf of 2019 is the third king penguin of his name. The first served dutifully between 1972 and 1987. What did you achieve today? More chocolate is bought at Brussels Airport than any other place in the world. We all know Belgian chocolate is to die for, but who knew our craving for it would make the Brussels Airport the top seller of the world's chocolate? It seems whenever someone passes through the airport, they make sure to purchase a box or two. We won't judge. For our geeks who love some statistics, there are 24.8 million flights through Brussels and 67,900 passengers per day. That's a lot of potential chocolate buyers. Berlin has more kebab restaurants than Istanbul. Tasty doner kebabs may have originated in Turkey, but Germans love these slow-cooked meats so much that you'll find more restaurants serving it in Berlin than in Istanbul. The kebab king, Mehmet Agman in Turkey, immigrated to Germany at 16, opening a kebab cart nearby 50 years ago. And the rest, as they say, is history. Berlin has more than 4,000 kebab shops. It's illegal to mow your lawn, hang clothes, or wash your car on Sundays. The Swiss believe Sundays really are a day for rest and have banned mowing your lawn because it's too noisy, washing your car because it's too annoying, or hanging clothes out to dry because it's too much of an eyesore. When you have a day off, there should be nothing interfering with your rest and relaxation. It is illegal to have only one social pet in Switzerland. The Swiss believe it is cruel for certain sociable pets to not have a companion. In order to keep guinea pigs, rabbits, parakeets, and other pets deemed social animals content, you must have more than one. There are even companies that will rent you a guinea pig to be your pet's companion should one pass away, giving you time to find a worthy replacement friend. For cats kept indoors, you may have just one, but you must provide a window where they can see another cat or give it some outdoor time. 1 in 10 Europeans are conceived in an IKEA bed. IKEA is so widely popular in Europe that it's estimated 1 in 10 babies in Europe and 1 in 5 in Britain are conceived in its beds. IKEA is notorious for having difficult to understand instructions, but it looks like everyone has at least one activity all figured out. Detroit undercover cops in a drug ring once fought another group of undercover cops. Put your hands up. No, you put your hands up. That's likely what went down in November 2017 when two groups of undercover cops in Detroit accidentally mistook each other for the drug dealers and buyers they were respectively trying to bust. What ensued during the raid was a standoff, resulting in fists being thrown while guns were pointed at each other. Internal Affairs had to be contacted to put the officers under investigation in an attempt to figure out the unfortunate miscommunication. The Queen celebrates 2 birthdays every year. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was born on April 21, 1926, which is why she celebrates her actual birthday each spring. However, the head of the British royal family also observes a second official birthday celebration called the Trooping the Colour. King George II started the tradition in 1748 because his own birthday was in November, which was too cold for an annual parade. He decided to hold an additional ceremony during the warmer weather. Cats once delivered mail in Belgium. In the 1870s, the city of Liège, Belgium, attempted to employ 37 cats as mail carriers. Messages were tucked into waterproof bags that the kitties would carry around their necks. However, while one cat apparently made it to its destination in under 5 hours, the other cats took up to a day to complete their journeys. Due to the fact that the cats weren't particularly reliable and definitely weren't speedy, the service didn't last very long. My home country is a bit weird, guys. You can learn the High Valyrian language from Game of Thrones with an online course. Fans of George R.R. Martin's best-selling books and HBO's hit series Game of Thrones will be able to tell you that High Valyrian is the Latin-like language used in formal circumstances by the fictional nobility of Essos and Westeros. And while the stories may be make-believe, the language is a fully developed form of communication that you can learn yourself thanks to an online course from Duolingo. Astronauts in space are exposed to the same amount of radiation as 150 to 6,000 chest X-rays. When astronauts leave Earth, they face a range of factors that affect them physically. That includes the intense amount of radiation that they're exposed. According to NASA, it's the equivalent of anywhere between 150 to a staggering 6,000 chest X-rays. There is a town in Nebraska with a population of 1. Elsie Ellier lives in a town called Monowi in Nebraska, and she's the only one. She used to live there with her husband Rudy, but when he passed away in 2004, she became Monowi's sole resident. Elsie is also the town's mayor, bartender, and librarian, and is responsible for paying herself taxes and granting herself a liquor license. As of 2018, the tiny population makes Monowi the only incorporated town in the U.S. with only 1 resident. Every time you shuffle a deck of cards, you get a combination that's never existed. Your angsty teenage dreams of being the most original, unique person alive could actually come true. Grab a deck of cards and shuffle. Most likely, you will have created a combination of cards that had never existed yet until that moment. Any math experts out there know that this is because the probability comes out to 52 factorial or 52 exclamation point, as in 52 times 51 times 50 times 49 times 2 times 1. This number is massive. The probability that two card shuffles are exactly the same is so small, it likely will never happen.